Okay, let's do some netting. Netting comes in handy on a lot of different things. You can actually suspend your meat up in the air, or pack things. You can make things to haul firewood, drag, fish nets, gill nets, even traps. But I tie mine a little different than a lot of people. I found that wasting time on making the needle net and the gauge card and all of this stuff is just time consuming. Not saying it's bad, but for me, I can do it without them things, and get it done in quicker, not burn as much time and things making these little tools. So I'll go ahead and make one up here. I'm just gonna make a small one. I'm not making something that I would use for, a gill net or something. And I'll explain more. Hopefully I'm getting it all in frame. I'm gonna do an overhand and then just a quick and simple, because I'm gonna untie this obviously. So we want this to untie easily. Now on this side, I'm just gonna do a quick trucker hitch. And I'll also explain, I also tie my net's a little different. Like if you're doing a longer gill net, I tie mine a little different to save, because you never know if you're going to have to untie this to use the cordage. So I tie mine a little different to save on line in case I have to untie it and reuse it for something else. Hopefully I'm getting all this in frame. And this is just some cheap cotton rope. And what I'm going to be tying the net with today is some bank line, some bright bank line. Obviously the net that you're making is going to depend on what you're going to use. Cut this frayed end off. I'd actually use this to make fishing lures. You got to determine how your net's going to be. And this is what I was going to explain earlier. I make my gill nets a little different. I'll go higher with this ridge line. I'll go higher up in the tree. Instead of making my gill nets side to side like this, because you're going to have to cut these lines, I like to make mine from side to side. So you will be cutting your lines this way, so they'll be a lot longer. So if you have to untie all that, you can get that long line back. You're not cutting as much of your line. So I make mine, say if your gill net is 4 foot deep this way and 10 foot long, well, I do the 10 foot here, the 4 foot here. So my runs are much longer. My line is left so I can untie it and reuse it later. It doesn't have to be that way, but You just never know. I'm not going to make a huge net here. Like I say, just to give you an idea of how I do it. Now what I'll do is just cut my lines here. You want to try to keep them all about equal. Okay. This is where I'll start here. Push these to the side. Now what I'll do is determine how big of a gap do I need between my netting. And that's going to depend on what you're going to use it for. If you're using it for a gill net, obviously you have to adjust those for the fish that you're going to catch. If it's too small, the fish is going to bump into it and not get into the net. If it's too big, he's going to swim right through it and be gone. Okay, all I've done here, tied an overhand knot. And now I have 2 leaders coming down. I'll bring my next one over. Same thing, I'll figure up. I think I'm going to go about 2 fingers, roughly. Same thing. Make sure my line is straight. I'm going to tie just a simple overhand knot. And we'll just keep going all the way down. Roughly 2 fingers. Make sure your lines here are straight. Ain't got to be perfect. You ain't got to be pretty. You're not selling them. You're surviving with them, so. But it helps to keep them pretty consistent. Last one. And you can kind of space them out as you need them. Now what I'll do, I'll ignore that this one here is on the end here, and I'll start with my 2 here. Okay, we're making diamonds. I want my diamonds 2 fingers, ballpark. So this top run is going to be a half a diamond. So I know that I want to come up here and I want to tie it here. So what I'm going to do, and I'm pinching these two together, and I'm going to do both of them as an overhand knot and just loop them together. I'll probably move the camera over here closer here in a little bit. But as you can see, that's the overhand knot. And now what I'll do is just keep working all the way over. Now I'll come with these two. Same thing. Kind of roughly gauge myself. This isn't going to be perfect. It's not going to be pretty like it would be with the card and the netting needle, but it's going to be a lot faster, especially once you once you get used to it. And I'll just keep tying all of these. All the way down. All overhand knots, nothing crazy or hard to tie. The overhand is something I think everybody pretty much knows, the overhand knot. Okay, now we have this. Now what we'll do, we got our end line here. We'll come and gauge our line, pinch these two lines together. We'll go with an overhand knot. Just overhand knot this thing all the way down. And a lot of people associate nets, you know, with just fishing. It's not just fishing. You can use netting for all kinds of stuff. And the material you use here can be different. You know, if I was making a gill net or something, I would be using my fishing line. But you can also, I mean, you can make cast nets. It just depends on how much time you want to spend here, how elaborate you want to be. You can make cast nets, you can make all kinds of things. Okay. Like I say, it's not pretty, but you just keep going all the way down until you have your complete net. It is time consuming, tedious work, but in the end, it pays off. Especially if you're needing to get your food hung up in a tree away from predators. because they want the same food you need. I'm going to get the camera up here closer so you can see exactly what I'm doing here. Okay, we take our two lines, roughly pinch them where we want them, and we just overhand knot them. Just like that. And we just keep going, making diamonds the best we can. Like I say, survival, it's not always pretty, but the main thing is it works. The needle, the net needle, and the gauging card and things like that definitely make it look better. Keeps you more consistent on your diamonds. But it also takes time to make those tools. They're not hard to make. They're easy tools to make. But the less you have to do, the less you have to make, the better, I think. You're not using resources, time. You know, you could be doing other things. And this is a very small net. Usually you'd be making stuff a lot bigger than this. But even something like this can be used. We just keep going all the way down. Like so. Of course, you just keep working all the way to the bottom. That's how I do my nets. Am I gonna win awards for pretty? No, no, it ain't beautiful. All right, guys, remember, it's not what you can spend or how much you can spend. It's about the memories you make.